Charlie Welch, who was going to pinch hit for Cullen Smith, who went 0 for 3. Welch, 2 base hits in 11 at-bats and 2 runs scored in the regional so far.
Look at that, Steve. 7 for 11. This is Arkansas's best pinch hitter, Charlie Welch. 3 RBIs. Not an easy thing to do.
Ball 1.
From the Arkansas Sports Network, it's an in-depth Arkansas Razorbacks podcast featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Caldwell.
When I grew up, I remember the Quinn Grovey days where the SWC champions in 88 and 89. I mean, that was the time that I grew up. That's the time that I got hooked on Razorbacks.
Around here, we call him the Rain Man of Arkansas Razorback Sports, Mr. Teran Miller.
Real quick, speaking about going down to Baton Rouge, and all the corn dogs and all that nature. But y'all remember the time Bobby Boucher intercepted the quarterback and his pants fell off?
And finally, he wears his hair upside down and he pushes all the buttons, Mr. Bill Harshaw.
When you look at the Razorback athletic program across the board, Hunter Yurichak's got this thing moving in the right direction. Because these kids are looking at Arkansas athletics going, hey, Arkansas is the place to be, and we haven't had that in a while.
Everyone get ready, because you're now connected to the Razor Wire.
And welcome into another edition of the Razor Wire. Brad Caldwell, Teran Miller, I'm Bill Harshaw, and want to give special thanks to Woo Pig Suey on Twitter for the video we just watched. I tell you what, when you watch that video, does it not give you kind of a little bit of a chill going on?
All up in the fields, man. That was a classic home run. You've got several. I say several. You've actually only got a few there that you can go to. The grand slam hit in Wichita against Wichita back, 2004, I believe. That was probably the only home run in Razorback baseball history that you could put up there with that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Brett Eibner.
Brett Eibner. Yes, you're right. Good one. Good call on that. Brett Eibner in the College World Series in 2009 against Virginia saved our bacon, right?
Yeah, and that was can't remember his name. The pitcher pitched for the Astros. Starts with a K. I don't know why I can't think of it. Keuchel, yeah, Dallas Keuchel. He, I think he was.
Come on, Rain Man,
too.
My goodness,
that's why it's the Rain Man. It's varied. Okay, it comes and goes. Hey, anyways, but yeah, that was you can put it up there with that one.
Yeah,
Keuchel, I love that video.
Actually, it's what you said. I'll let you get to the video in a minute, but think about that game. You had the big home run, and then you had the pitching performance with Keuchel, very similar to what we saw
Yes.
against Nebraska.
Cops. Yeah. Yeah, phenomenal. My favorite part of the video is when Dave Van Horn says, in the little bubble words, he says, "Swing away, Chuck." It's great, great stuff right there.
And what's interesting about that final few seconds there, when he steps up to the plate, is I had seen on Twitter, midway through the second inning, I believe it was, where a lot of people were saying, this kind of feels like a Charlie Welch walk-off kind of night. Now, it wasn't a walk-off, but it was the closest thing you're going to get to one. And it did feel like, look, if Charlie Welch gets a chance to come in at bat, he's going to knock the seams off of it. And that's exactly what he did.
Chucky Taters, man.
Yeah,
Chucky Taters, I love it.
Dude, look at his stats as a pinch hitter, as a true pinch hitter, over just, how he started some of the games in at the SEC tournament, and he played the whole game, and just a lot better because they played good hard out in the field. So he kind of was at DH. He really is just, there's something special there, and Van Horn's figured that out. And as a pinch hitter, he's just on another level. And got 6 RBIs now in pinch hit spots. I mean, that's as good as it gets.
Huge. Think about this. When Dave Van Horn put him in, I mean, Colin Smith was not going to hit that pitcher. Now, would he have walked him? Maybe. He probably would have even. I mean, Taters hit the ball on 2-0 count, And
right.
Anyway, Colin Smith, left on left matchups for Colin Smith, not great. And so he makes the move. I was calling for it in the living room, I called Dave. I was like, listen, Dave, we need Charlie to pinch hit for Colin right now. He's like, man, I don't know. Like Colin, he was the MVP of the SEC tournament. Should have been. In my mind, we made him a trophy. You know that? They made him a special trophy for MVP of the tournament. Do you know that?
In your mind, or just they actually did?
They didn't. But he should have. He should have got it. But anyway, with that said, I called Dave. I was like, "Listen, Dave, let's make this happen." So he said, "You're right. You're right. Let's make that happen."
Yeah.
So and then I called him right before that pitch too, and I said, "Listen, let Charlie swing away at this one, okay? I mean, he's going to throw this one right down the middle. He's trying to find the strike zone. Let's let him swing." He said, "Gotcha." So that's where you saw the swing away.
Right. What it was you'd already ordered that shirt you're wearing right now.
Well,
and
right.
And you were like, we've got to get this figured out. So you had to make a call into the big man and get it done. So y'all can all think of Brad Caldwell.
You can't always see it was 18, but
yeah.
But I did love it when I was there.
Thanks for
I love that shirt. I love it.
A couple other things hot off the razor wire. On the football front, the offensive line coach, Brad Davis, has left the Hogs. He's heading on down to Baton Rouge.
Brad Davis is a very good offensive line coach, but I mean, you just don't worry about the offensive line with Sam Pittman. Right. I don't even know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got family in Baton Rouge. His mom, his dad, he's got siblings there. So it was a chance to go home. We saw the same thing with Justin Stepp when he left and went to South Carolina. So those losses, they make sense. It's not like there's an issue while they're going. We would have liked it not to be this late in the year, yes, but I think Pittman kind of knew. I've heard there's already search for a new O-line, looks like Kennedy's moving over to the O-line from tight ends coach, and we may have to find a new tight ends coach now. But those you don't worry about. It's those other guys that Pittman wasn't really happy with in their recruiting, that he got rid of. So there's been 5 turnover out of the 10 he originally came here with now. So, I mean, I think overall, though, we're in really good hands. Like you said, O-line's the one spot I worry the least about. And, I mean, Brad Davis is a good guy, but I think we're fine there.
I agree. With Sam Pittman, the former line coach at Arkansas, I just think, the offensive line is going to have leadership for no other reason than Sam Pittman is here. And I'm not too worried about losing Davis, although I wish him all of the best in his future endeavors, and I hope LSU continues to lose.
Right.
We all do.
No go Tiger thing at the end of his little statement,
No,
all of it was fine except for that part.
Except for that part. Now, there is some more hot news that's coming off the wire today, and this was something, Brad, you kind of brought up to us. Kamani Johnson gets arrested, charged with disorderly conduct. That's going to have some implications.
Guess we'll see what happens with it. How Muss handles it, but there's some implications coming from it. I don't know exactly how it all is going to work out, but things don't look good for Kamani Johnson today. And, that's kind of a problem for the basketball team because they don't have a lot of guys that they can play at that 4 or 5 spot. You can see with the guys coming in, we'll get to that in just a second, that they're committed to playing positionless basketball. But you still have to have guys that are a little more rugged to make that happen. Kamani was one of those guys, so we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, any of the
Yeah.
details? It's so early in this breaking news kind of situation that there's not very many details on what exactly happened. Do we know? It was 2 counts, I believe, of disorderly conduct, and I believe the cops were involved. So, and not the pitching cops. So that's not the right kind of cops in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, and I've struggled. I know one time I called him Kamari, and I was like Kamari, and I've heard Ty Richardson struggle over his name, and I think everybody's going to know his name now. When you do something like this, they're going to know who Kamani Johnson is now. So hopefully there's a plan in place that he can somehow earn his way back, but it doesn't look good at this time. It's a bad situation, so we'll see how that goes. But it's a loss there because, like you said, Brad, I mean, he's a rugged 6'7" physical guy, and that's something we really needed. We did pick up Trey Wade coming in, and Trey Wade is 6'6", and he's a bigger build kind of guy. Now he's a little shorter, maybe an inch, but basically in that same kind of category. And so we picked him up. We thought we were going to be a little overloaded there, and now we may lose Kamani. We'll see how that works out, but not a good thing right there.
No,
Hopefully
the few details that have came out does not sound good, and so I think you're right. This could be very impactful up in Bud Walton Arena. But Muss did add another transfer to his list.
Yeah,
Trey Wade from Wichita State. Yeah, like you said, kind of cut out of that cloth, and who knows, his playing time might just got a lot more. We'll see. It's kind of funny how that worked out. Where they announced it yesterday, and then today here we are. We'll see how it works out. I mean, right now, Muss is adding so much talent to the roster. There's no way that everybody's going to get to play, but you also see with Muss that everybody will have a chance at some point during the season to make an impact, and that's exactly the way this roster is going to set up. You're going to have 7 or 8 guys as mainstays, and then you're going to have guys that are going to kind of come in and be catalysts in some sort of way, and have when their numbers called, they're going to be ready.
I mean, it's got a very much G League kind of feel to it, how Muss runs things, and it's just preparing these guys for the next level because that's what they're gonna go into, those kind of situations. We got a Stanley Umudi who's coming in 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". He's that power forward, swing forward kind of guy, just like Kamani, just like Trey Wade. So all those guys are gonna have their role. What we saw last year with like an Ethan Henderson and some of those guys who didn't. They'd go several games sometimes without playing. And then we really depended on them at times. Ethan Henderson had some big moments for us. That's how this team, that's how he works. And he's going to have guys that got to fill those roles. And I think one of the things he talks about in the transfer is he really talks to them and he tries to find the right fit that they understand the kind of situation they're coming into. I don't think he promises them all the playing time in the world. Maybe some of these guys, I don't think he says it that way to anybody, but some of these guys kind of know it, but I think some of them know this is the situation. You got to be ready to help us. You may not be the happiest person all the time, but you got to be ready to come in and do your part when we need you. It's all about matchups. We saw that with Connor. He would start games and play 2 minutes. You know what I mean? He was mainly starting to win the jump ball on a lot of those times. I mean, I really feel like that was the reason he started some of those games, that he only played 1 minute, 2 minutes. And of course, it depends on how the defense plays them as well. So, or the offense plays against us, and part of the situations there.
I just like the whole, positionless player thing that Muss has going for him, because that's when you can have a guy that usually may sit on the bench. He comes off the bench to play, and you bring him in certain situations against certain personnel, maybe a certain size guy, and that you're going to have not only somebody that can fit an intricate piece of the cogwheel, but also have the depth and the talent at that depth to where you can make a deep run in the tournament.
100%.
Also, news coming off the Razor Wire is Arkansas pitcher Kevin Kopps has been named as a semifinalist for the Golden Spikes Trophy, and I think that's something that is well deserved, and I think he should, in my opinion, he should win that.
If he doesn't win it, they should disband the trophy.
Yeah.
Never give it out again. Of course, he didn't win the SEC Player of the Year, so that trophy is now in the garbage. And so now it is now time to either give him his rightful due or disband the trophy. No, there's been many guys that have had several good years throughout, but I mean, what? Who's had a better year? I mean, I can't. I can't think of anybody in Razorback history has ever had a better year than what Kevin Cobb's having right now. And we have a Golden Spikes winner, 2015, I believe, with Andrew Benintendi.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, hands down, after that performance Monday night, there's no way you can't give it to him, in my opinion. There's not a Troy Smith from Ohio State lurking in the bushes somewhere that could be the front runner all year that might steal it. Is there?
I don't know. My concern is that they're going to go up and break a spike off, and next thing you know, we're going to have a Golden Spikes trophy. That seems to be the going trend this season.
Well, it's not an SEC given trophy, so maybe there's a chance that Arkansas might win the whole thing. We'll see. But if they don't, we can go ahead and just ignore that trophy forever.
If Cops does win it, it'll be on ESPNU. There'll be full coverage.
ESPN 3
or you,
the Ocho, ESPN Africa, whatever it is. It will not be.
It'll be Toto playing in the background.
Whatever it is, it will just not be.
That's it. Let's get into some more baseball. But first, give us a like and share on the Arkansas Sports Network. Look us up on Facebook, Arkansas Sports Network. We're also on Twitter at AR Sportsnet. And you can find our website at arkansassportsnetwork.com. Go ahead and check us out and follow us online for sure. But let's take a look back here at this last regional. It was a tournament that was better regional than a lot of people thought it would be.
Yeah, it was. New Jersey Institute of Technology was not the worst team in the tournament. The regional was not a weak regional. It was actually a very strong regional. And then you had the fact that Arkansas even had to go through a Power 5 champion to get there. Now, did we see that coming? No. But if you look at the teams in the regional outside of New Jersey, I believe Northeastern came in with 10 losses. Nebraska came in with like 11 losses and, leaves with 13 losses. Arkansas obviously had 10 losses coming in. They ended up with 11 after their loss to Nebraska. But, I mean, just in that alone says that it was not the weakest regional. And then New Jersey comes in with winning 18 of 22. I mean, they really messed things up for Arkansas moving into the regional with how Arkansas had to pitch them in game one.
100%. They got Bolden out there quickly. Connor Nolan got thrown in us, thrust into action. We just went through several guys, and the good thing was most of them only threw about 25 to 35 pitches because they struggled so much, and we might could get to use them again later. But you never want that, and losing that game Sunday against Nebraska and forcing that game Monday night made it even. That's where it really comes into play when you have that much going on. You got to play another game now. New Jersey Institute of Technology, if you're Nebraska or Northeastern, if you're anybody in this regional besides Arkansas, that was what you wanted to see from them. If they didn't beat Arkansas, you wanted them to do what they did. And that was a recipe for success for somebody else to come in and steal one.
It absolutely was. And of course, you guys have been to these Razorback games, and anybody who's been to a Razorback game will know that when you're sitting right next to an opposing fan, there's going to be that tension there, and how they respond to, the hog call, something that a lot of fan bases aren't familiar with. The way they respond to Arkansas's game atmosphere is going to say a lot for that opponent. Now, New Jersey Institute of Technology could have came in here and kind of whimpered away, and got their tail kicked, and we may have never heard about them again. But I promise you this, the way their fan bases reacted, look, they're wearing Razorback gear. They're calling the Hogs in the games that they're not playing the Hogs with. They had an outstanding atmosphere in game time. They enjoyed themselves down here. And I think, to me, that's one of the bigger surprises of this regional, is how Fayetteville kind of gave them a big hug.
Yeah, and think about it. They don't even have a home stadium, NJIT Dome. I mean, that's insane. So they come up here and they see something that you don't see in college baseball. We're at the top. There's like maybe 3-4 programs that can even rival what we do with our fans and everything, and just the atmosphere there. And I mean, it just blew them away, and that's awesome that they would show that kind of sportsmanship and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that it's kind of, well, it's a telltale actually, if you really want to look at the regional, because Nebraska comes in, and if every year when Arkansas goes to the CWS, Nebraska kind of adopts Arkansas as their team if
Hmm.
they're not there. Well, Nebraska comes here, there's a threat there that Nebraska might win or they may lose or whatever. And that love that was there is gone. Now, partly of that is because the old left fielder turned around and flipped off the hog pen, and you just don't do that because you're going to get it after that. And
Ele-
that kind of sparked the whole deal. And there was a lot of tension between Nebraska and Arkansas, but New Jersey wasn't a threat to beat Arkansas. Nebraska was, but it definitely was a tale of two different teams in that standpoint.
Yeah, and you had the spike at home plate by Nebraska in their win on Sunday. I really believe that's why Robert Moore did that after his when he scored the next game. And so yeah, there was a lot going back and forth there. So I agree. And Dave Van Horn, he was not excited. He talked about that. He wasn't excited about when he found out Nebraska was coming here. Uh, he was like, why are they sending the Big Ten champs here? And it wasn't like he thought that it wasn't like he was even saying he thought they should host. He was really just saying they earned to go to a better place than the number. And he wasn't talking about, himself being cocky. He was just saying they didn't deserve to go to the number one overall seed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and he's a Nebraska. I mean, he loves Nebraska. It was hard for him to come to Arkansas. He had such a good thing going there, but this is his home, so that's where he went. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of love lost there between us now, but I think that'll fade away eventually. I mean, there's so many good ties there.
How long does the love for New Jersey Institute of Technology last? These guys are coming into Arkansas games and getting front row seats out there in the hog pen.
Yeah, they had a good time, but we kind of did the same thing with Central Connecticut State back in 2018 when we started the run to Omaha. It was kind of similar deal, but I don't think it was to the point where it was with New Jersey. And so, a Northeastern team comes to Arkansas, gets some Southern hospitality, and they ate it up. I mean, what can you say? I mean, they don't get that. They don't get that kind of love up there, and they're very forgotten, I'm sure, up there in the Northeast. And so it was a good thing for them, a great experience. I'm glad they did. I'm glad they had the experience. I'm glad we didn't lose to them, and I'm glad that we're moving on into the Super Regional now.
The fan base did a lot of things right as far as doing what you're supposed to do when you're guests in somebody's stadium. But the one thing that I want to give props for is New Jersey Institute of Technology's social media presence, being able to go out there. And I saw so many tweets from not only New Jersey Institute of Technology, their website and their Twitter, but also parents from these players that says, hey, thank you. And, they actually, when they're getting ready to get on the plane and head back to the Northeast, New Jersey Institute of Technology did release a thank you video on Twitter. Let's take a look at that now.
Dear Fayetteville.
Dear Arkansas.
Dear Fayetteville.
Dear Coach Musselman.
Dear Arkansas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arkansas.
This weekend was awesome. Thank you to the Arkansas faithful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Woo Pig Suey.
This was an awesome experience. Thank you for a great weekend. Thank you. You guys were awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Fayetteville, thank you. This weekend was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This weekend was unbelievable. Thank you so much.
This was the time of our lives. Thank you, Arkansas, for everything you've done. You guys were unbelievable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had a blast.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to shout out Fayetteville for an amazing weekend. It was an awesome experience and can't wait to be back.
This has been an awesome experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for an unbelievable weekend. This weekend was unreal. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Fayetteville. You were awesome.
So New Jersey Institute of Technology really doing a lot social media wise that a lot of fans saw and a lot of fans enjoyed.
Yeah. And again, it's just endearing themselves to the fan base, and just, hey, look, it's fun to matter. for a little bit. You know what I mean? They're up there. They don't have a home stadium, as you said. They take, fielding on the lacrosse field. I mean, think about that. Lacrosse has a field and the baseball team doesn't. I mean, kind of says all you need to know about what's going on at New Jersey Institute of Technology. And hopefully they have the opportunity to maybe build off of this and maybe get something going on for their program.
Their last quote unquote home game had less than 50 people in attendance. So, it's always fun. I would imagine, when you're going to play in the college ranks, to get in front of a packed stadium. That's something these guys hadn't had an opportunity to do. But, the one thing that Arkansas fans may be overlooking because of this, bromance with New Jersey is what it did to Arkansas pitching throughout the rest of the entire regional.
Right. It was pretty awful. Bolden really, me and Duran had talked about this, that they might start Bolden against New Jersey Institute of Technology. But Bolden really didn't uphold his end of the deal. And if he comes in and he shuts them down, the regional probably looks completely different than it did. But he comes in, he's nervous as a cat. You could tell he wasn't himself at all. Pitched very well against Tennessee. Was it Tennessee or was it Ole Miss? It may have been Ole Miss. One of the two there. I believe it was Ole Miss. It was Ole Miss. Anyway, he looked so much better against a much more potent lineup than what New Jersey Institute of Technology had. But one thing I will say for them was their approach at the plate. They were small ball.
Rob.
They were go the other way. They were They battled at the plate, and we don't see a lot of teams like that.
Right.
We see more teams trying to hit the home run, and that approach I think did throw us off. But Bolden really could have helped us out by holding up his end of the bargain. If he does, I mean, you have Wicklander. He pitched pretty well in the first game against Nebraska, and then it would have set your pitching up for much better outcome if he does what he's supposed to do.
Right. And I think it does kind of help us for what we're about to get into at North Carolina State, because we'll talk more about them later, but they definitely do some small ball. And I think that helped us because we're going to see that approach a little more often. And, Bolden, honestly, he was a little off, a little nervous, but he wasn't just horrible. But I think he kind of just threw fastballs down the middle a lot and thought he could get away with it more, I think. When he's pitching against Ole Miss or somebody in the SEC, he's trying to paint the black more, trying to keep him a little bit more off balance. He starts out 0-2, and then the guy hits it, into the bullpen, first batter of the tournament. And then he kind of was getting a little bit more accuracy there at the end when he got pulled, but it was just too late at that point. I agree with you, and good stuff there. I mean, it good.
Well, it was no surprise on what happened in that regional, going up, eventually taking on Nebraska. And it was every Arkansas fan that was either there or watching it will always remember where they were when Arkansas beat Nebraska to advance to the Super Regional. It was a big moment. You watch that clip that we started off the show with, and you can see the intensity on Dave Van Horn's face when Charlie Welch belts that thing out of the ballpark. And you could tell Dave Van Horn, he keeps a lot of things close to his chest. He doesn't get a whole lot excited, at least in the press conferences. He doesn't really show a whole lot, but you could tell during that press conference, you could tell Dave Van Horn was a little excited. Here's Dave Van Horn right after beating Nebraska.
They're busting our right-handers in, and we knew that. But he was pitching away a little more than we thought he was, and he was spinning the breaking ball, and he was getting ahead of every hitter. I mean, it was like, you feel like if you're hitting and you make the first out on the first pitch, it starts to get frustrating for everybody around. But he was getting ahead of us, 1-0 or 0-1, 0-2, and 1-2, and he had some quick innings. I don't know, and then with Opitz, I mean, obviously, Casey has one home run going into the game. We've seen Casey hit a bunch of balls out of here. But I haven't seen him go down and hit a line drive right-handed that hard. I mean, he went down and smoked that ball into the green seats over the bullpen on the line. It lit our dugout up because all of a sudden, man, we're only down one run. And kind of for our dugout, what's new? We're always down one run in the middle of the game. And so it was kind of like normal territory. And we felt like the momentum switched over to our dugout a little bit. And Kevin kept throwing up zeros, man. And that's what did it. We knew we were going to break out. And Kevin gave us that opportunity. I mean, that's the way it happens sometimes. You think, because I've been on the other end of that. You're thinking, man, I got 2 quick outs. I got a hitter down 1-2, and I'm already over there thinking about, how I'm going to score in the 9th inning or whatever the situation is. Next thing you know, Franklin's fouling off pitch after swinging and missing a lot, being super frustrated. And, he got to 2-2. He fouled one off his foot. And then it went to 3-2. I don't know if he fouled another one off. He ended up taking a walk. Man, it pumped our dugout up. And just that he had a good at bat. I mean, we didn't know we were going to score 4 runs. We were just hoping to score 1, hoping somebody would hit ball in the gap. And then sure enough, I don't know, I guess Robert walked, and then Opitz went 2-0, and then the fireworks started. And it was amazing. I've been kind of just trying to figure out the lineup, you put your hitters in there, and I had Charlie in there yesterday with, it didn't go real well. Slavin's not hitting right now. Franklin's wasn't seeing it very good. And that's the middle of our order. And I just told the coaches this morning that I was going to go with the guys that helped us win some big games as far as the lineup. And I brought up the Tennessee game with Gregory hitting in the 9 hole. He got the big hit, at Tennessee. And, just said, I'm going to bring Charlie off the bench. I'm going to have a guy off the bench because I felt like Nebraska was going to just keep matching up after, Povich was out of there, because we knew that he was starting. We knew last night after the game that's who they were going to start. And we figured they were going to let him go until he showed him he couldn't go anymore. And he did a nice job early. I mean, he stuck it to us. But it was hard for me not to put Charlie in there against that left-handed pitcher. But I just felt like we were going to get a shot later in the game if we could keep it close. I mean, our plan was Wiggins to go 3-4, but didn't quite work out. Kevin give us what he's got. Hopefully we could keep it close. We didn't know what the score was going to be, and then we were going to try to finish with a couple of guys. And Wicklander wanted the ball. He told us he wanted the ball, and he was one of them. And, Charlie I came down when they brought the lefty in with the 2-0 count. They turned Casey around to right-handed. I went down the steps and I said, Charlie, if Casey gets on, you're hit. And a couple pitch later, he was there and he was ready to go, and laid off a bad pitch. And then you saw what he did to that pitch. I mean, he hit it as hard as you can hit it. It's unbelievable, honestly. And I told the team they were amazing. And, they just keep finding a way, and they keep fighting, and we get to hang out at least another week. And we know that we're going to play North Carolina State, and they're probably one of the most offensive teams in the country, and they're hot. And we figured that's who was going to win that regional. We all projected it.
So again, that's Dave Van Horn after defeating Nebraska to win the regional. And guys, that was a special regional final, wasn't it? Absolutely.
It was special. I mean, the whole thing, starting with Cops coming in the 3rd inning. I mean, what else can you say about this guy and the situations that he's brought us through this year? I mean, you take him off this team, there's no way they're 49-11 after 60 ball games. And he's just done that much. I mean, 13 wins and 12 saves. I mean, that makes him solely responsible for 25 wins. That doesn't count all the games that he might have left tied. You remember at one point he was a setup man and Jackson Wiggins was the closer. Wiggins has got 5 saves himself. I mean, think about that. Since Cops has hit his groove, I mean, he has done some special things, but there's nothing more special than what he did in that regional, where he threw almost 200 pitches over a 4-day span. He saved 3 ball games for us, basically, and ended up really being the sole catalyst and the MVP, by the way, of the regional. But he was the reason why we won the regional.
And, everybody's sitting here going, he comes in the 3rd inning, and everybody's going, well, are we bringing him in too early? I mean, that was my question. How many airbenders does this guy have in the tank? You can credit it all to Beet Juice. It doesn't make him sore. That's one of the things that Cops talked about, in previous press conferences, was how he uses the Beet Juice and how Beet Juice is used at the professional level for, staving off the soreness. And he kind of alluded to that in his press conference where he talks about, I'm not sore at all. So here's Kevin Kopps.
No, I feel fine. I didn't really feel fatigued. I didn't really have too many like high intensity pitches, I would say. I mean, I was going after pretty well, but I would say when I'm closing short stance, I give that little bit of extra. I was just more focusing on hitting spots today. He just asked me how I'm feeling, if I'm good to go, and I just say yeah, and I do feel good. I don't get sore or anything. It's so relieving when we score runs, and then when Charlie came up and just blasted that ball over the seats, it really takes all the momentum into our dugout and helps me to settle down on the mound more and just get into an even better rhythm.
So Kevin Kopps saves the day again. And I'll tell you, we were talking off air during the game, obviously. And, I'm sitting there going, if Kopps pulls this off and he goes all 9 innings, after coming in the third, is that what's that going to elevate him to? I mean, he's right now, he's just under John the Baptist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, you're talking about Kevin Kopps as having the greatest Razorback season on the baseball diamond ever. And then what you're also talking about, you're putting him up into the light of Darren McFadden and the Todd Days and the
Mount Rushmore.
Moncriefs. Yeah, he's
right.
way up there, right? Especially for a season. And baseball gets tricky because you only are there 3 seasons. Usually your second and your third seasons are your main contributing season. So you don't really kind of get a chance to be as some of those other guys were. But man, what he has done in this season and then what he did in this regional, I mean, he's all time at this point.
185. Go ahead.
No, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, 185 pitches. And now he's at 13 wins, 12 saves, 2 wins and a save in that regional. I mean, it's just insane. It's crazy. If we go on to win the whole thing, you can argue he's the greatest individual person in Razorback history, even though it's a 1-season thing. Because if you win the national championship, McFadden never did that. Who else are we going to throw up there? Lance Allworth. I mean, he never did that. You have to get to coaching at that point because of the national championships. Frank Broyles, So, anyways,
McConnell got 42.
43, I think, before they took 3 away, right?
Which, by the way, we should go ahead and take a moment to talk a little bit about that. It's kind of unscheduled, but McConnell, Arkansas lost a great one.
Yeah, John McDonald was the greatest, winningest coach of all time in Razorback history. A lot of his track, but I mean, he won. I heard that John McDonald was the shop teacher at Greenland before he was the Razorback track coach and had all the success that he had. So It's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool, his story, and then all of the things and all the Olympians that he trained and all this stuff. And word didn't get out apparently to his illnesses and whatever, but apparently this had been coming for a while. And they said that athletes from all over the world had come in to visit him one last time before he passed.
Wow.
He is an icon. I mean, there's no one ever been as dominant in one sport as John McDonald. The guy's amazing. He had a huge ranch, like 180 acres, something of that nature, over in Oklahoma, not far across the line. Nolan Richardson credits a lot of his success to John McDonald. They were both had office by each other in Barnhill, and then eventually in Bud Walton. And when Richardson was struggling early on, he would go talk to John McDonald. And Mike Irwin talked about this some, and just some awesome stories about the things that Nolan learned from John and how he knew how to push buttons with guys. There was one story about how they won 12 cross-country championships in a row. And when they were like at number 6, McDonald was just a numbers type guy. He was doing analytics before they were a big deal. He knew he had to have a lot of people and they had to get a lot of points in different, events. And he did the math, and they were not going to win it that year. They were going to come up, 3rd or 4th probably. And this is like they'd won 6 straight. So he went and told the team that. He's like, guys, I've crunched all the numbers, and we're just not going to do it this year. We're probably going to get 3rd or 4th. And then he left the locker room and left those guys to think about it. they all got together and put the numbers up themselves. They were like, hey, man, he's got you down as only getting 2 points in this event. You've got to get 4. This guy, you're not even going to post a score. You've got to score. So they all went and did that. They were mad that he thought that they couldn't do that. He knew how to push that button, and they go out and win another national championship right there. I mean, how amazing is that? Just you learn things from guys like that, and he's an innovator and just one of the best to ever do any sport.
No, I mean, Kops is an innovator too. He's able to perform that pitch in a way that no one else can, and that's going to set his name in stone and as one of the greatest of all time as well. And of course, we're going to see what else he can do. We got a big super regional coming up, and hopefully a big trip to Omaha. We're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more Razor Wire in just a bit. And welcome back to the Razor Wire. And I guess, guys, we have a big super regional coming up. NC State coming to town. And, it's one of those obscure teams that you don't see on TV very much. So, I don't have a whole lot of information on their stats, but I know Mr. Rainman over there, he does.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's going to be a tough super regional here. It's a very good team we're fixing to go up against. They're 33-17 on the season, 17-3 on the road. So they're a very good road team. Yeah, that one sticks out to me. They started 4-9 this year, 1-8 in ACC play. They had a 2-week COVID break in there. They come back from that. They got swept by Louisville. Louisville didn't even make the ACC tournament, and they do have a lot of talent. They just couldn't figure out a way to put it all together and have a good season this year. But after that, they caught fire, and they finished 19-14 in the ACC and 33-17 on the season, like I said. So you can imagine if they're starting 4-9, that you're talking 29-8 the rest of the way. So, I mean, they're one of the hottest teams in the country. They swept that Ruston Regional, didn't lose a game. I think they outscored their opponents 30-11 against a Louisiana Tech team that we lost 1 game out of 3 when we played there early in the year. And, of course, we know that Alabama beat us first game in the SEC this year, 16-1, and then we beat them the next 2 games pretty handily. But they're a really good team. We'll start with their batting. They hit 291 as a team. That's their batting average, just towards the top in the nation. They've got over 80 home runs. They have 83 home runs. They've got 5 guys with double-digit home runs. They're the only team that we played that's kind of in that category. I know Tennessee, they had a couple guys, and they had a lot of home runs, but didn't have 5 like that. So they're kind of like us. We've got 6 now with Colin Smith now joining that group, double-digit home runs. But so they've got power. They do a lot of small ball stuff. They do a lot of double steals. Their batting order 1 through 9 is strong. There's really not a lot of drop off. They've got a former Arkansas running back, Terry Tatum. His son is one of their starting outfielders, and he hits over 300. One of 4 guys that hit over 300 for the team. He's hitting 321. He has 11 home runs and 35 RBIs. His dad, Terry, was a 4-year letterman at Arkansas, and he played from 82 to 85. He's from Little Rock Mills, where he was recruited from. And outfielder Johnny Butler, I think he's their left fielder. Him and Tatum kind of switch back and forth. He's hitting 389 on the year. He finished regular season play with a 409 average. That's incredible. And we know the ACC, I mean, in my opinion, them and the Pac-12 are kind of hand in hand there with the second best baseball conferences, in my opinion. I mean, so that's 409 in the ACC is incredible, and with a mostly ACC schedule as well. He's got 12 home runs, 46 ribbies. Terry McDonough, he's an infielder outfielder. He leads the team in homers with 15. So our top dog is Robert Moore now. He's got 14. This guy's got 15. McDonough, 351 average, 43 ribbies. And then you've got infielder outfielder Austin Murr. He has 7 home runs, 31 ribbies, and a 329 average. So I mean,
Man,
they hit really
that's
well.
terrible. That's terrible, Duran. It is. It's terrible that such a good team has to come to Fayetteville just to lose.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're definitely an offensive-minded team. So you got that power, that average I talked about. Steals, Tatum has 15 stolen bases on 17 attempts. Butler has 15 on 16 attempts, and McDonough is 13 of 17. So I mean, they can do it all. They do a lot of double steals. They bunt. I mean, they can hit for average, for power, and just they're going to be tough all the way around.
So
pitching. Go ahead.
So yeah. So what you're telling me here is they got some pretty good movement with the bat, and Arkansas is going to have to really do a good job on the mound to try to silence those bats. And I think that's the biggest concern for me right now. But just based on the the offensive stats that you've read. So Brad, what do you take out of that?
So one thing that I will take is that after this last regional, I have slowed my roll just a little because, last week we were all, doing this number. Yeah, we're going to go 9-0 this postseason or whatever, or 10-0 this postseason. Nobody's going to touch us. And it's not this team's MO, to be honest with you, and probably got a little bit wrapped up into it, even though they still won. This team is a 2 out of 3 team. I mean, our sweeps in the SEC were fewer and further between. I mean, if you remember at one point there, even though we had won every SEC series, we were still tied with Mississippi State. Now, we ended up finishing strong. We swept Florida at the end, made things really good, and ended up wrapping up the SEC and the SEC West. But going into that final series against Florida, it was still anybody's ball game. And so with that said, it wouldn't shock me if we lose a game. I don't want to lose the first one. I'll tell you that right now. Makes for a very nervous person, especially the fact that my 40th birthday is coming up, and I really don't know that I can handle that. And I'm trying to go to the stadium anyway and try to be there for them to win it. So I would like for them to go ahead and win. If somebody can, I'll call Dave. Got the direct line to him again.
There you go.
But anyway, with that being said, they're going to be tough. They don't have the pitching that they probably need to shut us down. Now, the question will be, will we shut ourselves down? We did it against Nebraska in a lot of ways, taking bad swings, trying to hit home runs, trying to pull everything. Will we get to an approach at some point in this during this time that we're hitting the ball back up the middle a little bit more? We're not trying to pull it as much. Better times. We had more pop-ups to the infield than I could ever remember because we're pulling off the ball so bad. So Arkansas has got to find a way to change their approach a little bit. I don't think NC State has the pitching to beat us, though. And I'd like to see our pitching step up in this super and then launch us on into Omaha.
I think our pitching is definitely going to have to step up with the offensive records that Duran had just read off. But what about pitch-wise? You were about to get into their pitching?
Yeah. A couple things I want to talk about real quick on what Brad just talked about
Sure.
before we get into the pitching more is what you described there. We're a 2 out of 3 team. Well, what you're describing is we're a Kevin Kopps team. I mean, it's really such a difference with that guy. I mean, we win game 1 because he closes it out. We win game 3 2 days later because he comes back out and closes it out. We usually don't use him in that game 2, and that's the only game that we were susceptible to losing. That's why we had a few sweeps, but we didn't sweep them all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's how important he is. It's incredible. The other thing I don't remember what you were saying. I can't remember what it was, but let's just get into pitching. So here's the key to them. I remember now. It was those pop-ups you were talking about. A lot of high fastballs. They fed us, and we popped it up. We continued to try to pull it. And I think Nebraska figured that out. Then that loss, that first loss, actually they figured it out when we beat them the first time. That was something to keep doing to us, and it paid off for them for the most part. Sliders away to guys like Franklin, high fastball. We really just showed that we couldn't handle that, and we would swing at it. Slavens, I can't think of how many he went after. All of them. Cullen Smith, he could have walked on one play. He swings at a high fastball. Kind of reminded me of the Kansas City Royals that first year they made the World Series, but a few years back. You remember that game where they were just high fastball? They just kept hacking at it. They were so offensive that year. So I think all that's going to help us though. Dave Van Horns are going to, in the pitching coach Thompson, the batting coach, they're going to hone in on that. And Van Horn standing out in center field like he always does, and they're going to hammer that home. So hopefully we'll do a lot better there. Pitching wise, 5 pitchers is basically all they have. So it's going to be key to us to really get into their starters. If their first starter goes 7 innings, they're going to be fine the next 2 games probably. If we can knock him out early before 5 innings for sure, it's really, really going to pay off if we end up having to get in that game 3, especially. They got 5 guys. They're really good. They're 5 guys, but that's about it. They had a lot of injuries early in the year, and that's why they're so depleted. Those 5 guys have thrown about 80% of the innings this year. Their main man is Reed Johnston. He leads the team with a 3.9 or a 0.39 ERA. I'm sorry, 3.9 ERA. He's pitched in 14 games with 10 starts. He is 8-2 on the year, 87.2 innings, struck out 86 and walked 21. Every one of their guys you'll see has a good strikeout to walk ratio. Now, Nebraska led the Big Ten in that category. So I don't think they're quite as good in that, but they're still solid there. And we did a pretty good job of getting Nebraska to walk probably more than they have all year. Next on the list here, we've got Evan Justice. He's a closer for him. He's got 10 saves, so he's a little Cops-like. He's been in 20 games. He started 4. He has an ERA of 4.47 and is 4-2 on the year in 50.1 innings, 50 1/3 innings of work. He struck out 62 and walked 24 batters. Sam Highfield, he's a record of 7-2 with an ERA of 3.95, so just barely higher than the 3.90 of Johnston. He's had 14 games that he's appeared in, all of them starts, 79.2 innings of work. He struck out 72 and only walked 22. Another guy, Matt Willidson, is 5-3 with an ERA of 4.97. He's appeared in 17 games with 12 starts. In his 79.2 innings of work, he struck out 68 and walked 25. Justice, though, this is key, I think. Justice is the only lefty of that group, of those 4 main starters. And so we struggle more with left-handed pitchers than we do right-handed by far. We've been that way for several years now. So I think that's going to help us a lot when you're talking about the guys that like to bat from that side against righties, like the Colin Smiths. Of course, he does all the time. But Opitz, Robert Moore, just for an example. So I mean, they're good on both sides, but depth is an issue, and we really need to get to them early.
You would think that the competition level that they've played is not anything close to what we've played. But again, my question about the Razorbacks is not the other team at this point. I mean, it's cliche to say, but at this point with this team and the way the season has gone, it's not Arkansas that's the problem. It's not Arkansas. It's not everybody else's problem. It's Arkansas. And will they be able to really not play to their competition level? A lot of times they do that. They lost to the Texas A&Ms and the Auburns of the world, able to go to Mississippi State and sweep. They swept Florida. It seemed like every time there was a top 10 opponent that came into Baum Stadium, they were on it. They were ready. And then some of these other ones, they're like, we can do whatever we want to do and win. Felt that way a little bit again in the regional. And they've got to come out and they've got to do better.
I think the one thing that we would need to look at is, did Nebraska, was Nebraska able to wake Arkansas up? Because you think back to the early part of this season and Arkansas was consistently playing from behind. Now we've gotten a little better as of late, but in this regional, we found ourselves behind a little bit. And as Arkansas fans in postseason play, especially on an elimination game, we don't like being behind. We don't want to lose that confidence that we're going to win this thing. Now, Kevin Kopps brings that confidence to the field, but at what point, I mean, are we going to see Kopps get started? I mean, that's something we could look at. Is he going to be consistently the closer? But I think the biggest thing, Duran, that you'd said that Arkansas needs to focus on is chasing those pitchers off the mound, and not in a way where it's like, oh, they gave up 2 runs in 35 pitches. We need to run that pitch count up to where, yeah, we chased him off the mound today. We don't want to see him tomorrow.
Right. If you can get them into a game where they got to use 4 pitchers, it would be huge because they really only use 5 or 6 all year long. They're going to really step into a buzzsaw here in Northwest Arkansas. They're used to playing for about 3,000 fans, and that's in a year when they're not having the COVID top seasons, where fans are limited. They haven't really had 3,000 this entire year at home. Now they have an SEC tournament. They were only getting 7,000 to 8,000 guys there, or fans there. So it's going to be something they've never experienced. 11, 12,000 there every night, loud and proud.
Right. Yeah, and that made a difference against Nebraska in that final
Definitely.
game. I mean, they were throwing balls. They were rattled by the crowd. And I mean, you don't see that very often in baseball, but there was definitely a rattling there by of their pitchers when they went on that tear where they threw like 11
7
straight balls or whatever it was.
The fans were getting into it. They're
Yeah, it
over
was
there on the
crazy.
sidelines, 6 balls, 7 balls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that will rattle a pitcher's confidence more than anything. You
Without
could tell that the Nebraska coach is going, I'd really like to get him through this one bat. I'd like to get one more out. He's already walked 2 guys, and it's like you could see that he's wanting to give that pitcher every opportunity to finish the inning. But when the crowd gets into it and Arkansas fans start that chant, coach goes, it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
Especially in this type of situation where you're in a regional against the number 1 overall seed, or in this case, North Carolina State's going to be in a super regional. The whole time, I don't care what you say, the whole time you're thinking, if things go good for you early on, you're still thinking, this team is the best team in the country. At any time, they could just blow up. That is constantly in the back of your mind. You worry about it. You try to play the next play. You try to block that out, and you just play. We got the lead. Let's just go one play at a time. But I promise you that creeps in the back of most of their players' minds, if not all of them, a little bit. And that wears on you. And when you get a pitcher up there that starts throwing, gets a little trouble, the game gets tight, we tie it, the crowd's just right on top of you. It feels like they're just weighing on you, it makes a huge difference. And
it does.
I thank the Lord we're at home.
It does. And here's the thing is NC State may have that little man syndrome going on where they look at us as the big bad dog and they're kind of scared to come sit on our porch. And that's that feeling is only going to intensify the closer it comes to to the game day. Now, here's the thing. If they get and push this, game 1 to extra innings, it's a close game. If Arkansas gives them any reason to say, hey, you can run with the big dogs, they're going to run with the big dogs.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's why
I say right there was you don't want them to start off well. Every game that we played in the regional, the other team started off well. They got a little bit of momentum. They got a little belief. New Jersey, 3-0, bases loaded. I mean, you got to bring Kevin Cobbs in to stop New Jersey. Then you've got Nebraska, same thing, leadoff home run. I mean, that sort of stuff, they got to stop that. And that's what you hope that Wicklander comes in and does, is he stops that bleeding right off the bat.
Yeah. My key to get a victory this weekend is we really need it. This doesn't have to happen, but it would really help us if Wicklander can go 6 innings, 7 innings for sure, something of that nature. Keep it Cops limited where he only has to throw about 30 pitches maybe in this game. That would be humongous. If Cops has to come in and throw 60, because I know that Cops can throw, 60 to 70 and then maybe 20 the next day and then do another. Obviously, he did another like 90 or whatever it was.
Depends on how much.
He can do that.
Depends on how much beet juice they have in the dugout.
That was in a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That was a 4-game stretch that he did that. He had a day off in there. So, I mean, I don't want Cops to have to throw 50 or 60 in game 1, and then we need them that next night to keep them from getting us to that game 3 if it works out that way. Yeah, he'll be good for game 3, but I'd rather Wicklander burden a big load there and have a really good showing and keep Cops where he only has to throw a bullpen of work basically. Well, get 6 outs, something like that, and get us out of there.
Both teams are going to throw literally everything in the kitchen sink on, day 2. We know that they're going to play conservative on the mound on that first opening day. And that's Arkansas's best shot of putting this thing away. When NC State comes in and they say, well, we only got 6 pitchers. We're not going to burn our entire bullpen on game 1. Arkansas gets a couple run lead and just coast through it. We may not chase as many of them off, and they're not going to let us. They're going to say, okay, we'll let you win this one. We got to win 2 back to back, because they don't want to lose it all. So they're going to conserve their bullpen as much as they can. And if Arkansas can take game 1, we're in a good spot, because then they're going to throw everything they can at us game 2.
Yeah.
And if we can push all of their pitchers down on game 2, and even if they force a game 3, they're still depleted.
Right. I mean, if we got to throw Cobb 70 pitches in game 1 to get the win, we're going to do it. Don't get me wrong. That's why I'm saying, if we can get Wicklander to not have that situation pop up, it will be huge going down the road there for game 2 and game 3 if it gets to that.
We need Wicklander to go 6.
Yes.
At least. I would like to get us to a more of a 2-inning situation, but at the same time, with Cops is what I'm saying. We also know that they're willing to throw 100+ pitches with Cops if they need to. And looking at Cops, he just look at him. He's in fantastic shape. Okay,
He's ripped.
He's just he's one of those guys that does this number. Very small waisted. I was telling my wife that that's what we're watching. And she's like, "Oh yeah, he is." And I was like, "Hey, just calm down just a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
Just chill out." But anyway, but he's really, really taking care of his body, so that he can come in and do the job.
Yeah,
you need him to do it, but it would be nice to not have to depend on him so much.
Right.
Find that Connor Nolan performance that we had in against Ole Miss. It's kind of, who is this guy? Like, the spirit of Kevin Kopps has entered his body. We need that type of guy to come out. We need Caden Monk to come out and play well.
Wiggins.
We need those guys. Wiggins to come out. Yeah, we need all those guys.
Yeah, I like that bringing up Kopps there. We didn't talk about this any, but cryotherapy, beet juice, and cryotherapy. Kopps does this. I'm sure a lot of our pitchers do, if not all of them. But they put him in this cryotherapy. I don't know if y'all have heard anything about that, but they basically put his arm in there, and they freeze it to I think it's like -100 degrees and things of that nature. And what it does is it freezes your cells or your blood, I guess, at the cellular level, and it's just a treatment, and it helps you bounce back quicker. And it's something they've been using with him, I know for a fact, because I've heard them talk about it. But I'm sure they use it with multiple pitchers, and that's part of what's working to keep him to where he can do this crazy stuff, 185 pitches in 4 days. I mean, he's an old school kind of guy. I mean, he's like a Nolan Ryan. He's like even older than that. These guys that would throw 100 pitches and they'd start 3 games in a row back in the day.
He's a tough kid.
He's special.
He is.
I'm sure glad he's in a Razorback uniform. That's for sure.
And just don't forget how average he has been for so long. And it speaks to the work ethic that he has, and just everything.
Barry Bonds kind of year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It really is. I mean, to think about how he was. Well, I'll touch on this. It's not our podcast, but the Hog Pod with Bo Mattingly. I'm listening to it yesterday. He goes to Matt Hobbs at the end of last year and says, "Do you have room for me on the team?"
Yeah, I know.
Like, what? Yeah. So that was a good decision by Hobbs.
Yeah.
So he, he could have said, "Nah, you probably just need to go ahead and move on, see if you can get." I mean,
we got a Jacob Burton. I think we're good.
Right. Exactly. So
who's not on the team anymore, by the way.
Right. So anyway, it's all kind of falling into place, and I mean, you're at the quest for 56 at this point. Okay. 56 wins is what they need to win it all. I think you can win 57 and still win it all, but 56 is what you're trying to get to. And that's where we're at this point.
It's definitely going to be a big, fun, exciting environment at Baum Walker Stadium this weekend. We're going to do everything we can to be there. I know, Brad, you mentioned it's your birthday's this weekend. You want to be there. I hope you can get a chance to make it and get those post-game reactions. We really enjoyed that from down from Hoover. So, we're looking for more of that. And stay tuned here to the Arkansas Sports Network. We're going to bring it all to you. Duran, you got anything else to add, buddy?
No, I'm good. I'm excited for it, man. Let's get it done, and don't make me nervous like you did on Monday night against Nebraska.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I
Let's
felt like
just get it done in
Sanford
2 games.
I felt
Two
like
games.
I was a living embodiment of Sanford and Son.
Heart attack.
I'm telling you, here I come. It's that's it.
I love it. I love it, man. That's awesome. Fred Sanford. I mean, who can get a Fred Sanford reference into a podcast? We can. That's awesome.
For sure.
Well, there you have it, guys. That's our episode of Razor Wire for this week. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, right here on
The Razor Wire.